Welcome to the STARS program, seniors taking active roles in society. And now, here's your host, ANITA FINLEY.
If people are having problems with their loved ones, depending on just how serious it is, like they don't remember who you are or who they are, it's very hard to be a caregiver of that type. And I would say that you need to listen to this show because we have two experts who work in a beautiful community that deals with people like this all the time. And it might be something you want to consider. So I'm going to introduce SHERYL Taylor, who's Director of Marketing, David Larsen, who is the Director of Partnership Development, and they're both at Artis Senior Living, ARTIS. So welcome to the show, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We were just talking that it is a growing situation with people who really can't fend for themselves and their kids really can't take care of them. So what do? So why don't you take a shot at that, David?
Well, they get to the point where they can no longer do anything. So they reach the end of their rope, and if they're smart, they start looking, and usually when they do find us, we take them through the steps of what must be done to make sure that their loved one gets into a loving community where they're going to be taken care of and also live the rest of their life with dignity.
And it must be very shocking for them. They themselves are in trauma, are they not?
Oh, always.
Yeah. Most definitely. You know, and sometimes it's the spouse who is now dealing with the ailments of their own, of the caregiving that they've been doing, because they carry the majority of the burden and the stress, and it affects them in a lot of different ways that it doesn't affect the potential resident. Because
they've literally lost their partner, haven't they, in a sense?
Oh, yeah.
We had one lady come to a support group, because we do have support groups in our community every Wednesday, and she introduced herself as being Mrs. Jones. She says, "I am the widow of a man who is living with Alzheimer's."
Mm-hmm. Oh, I've never heard that before.
Yeah. So there are some people that have accepted, and I do training for our new staff, and that's one of the parts of training that I do is grieving through the eyes of someone who is suffering with this illness, and also for their family members, because when we think of grieving, we think of death. And when you look at it, the person that this loved one said I do to is no longer that person. Mm-hmm. So in a way, they are dead to them. It's not the same person that they once shared their life with.
And I want to just add something. I was with a very a renowned physician whose father had very serious Alzheimer's. And he died. They live in Miami. He died, and his wife was very sad, but she was a go-getter anyway. And now she's at a very fancy retirement community down there. And now she's starting to get some Alzheimer's or dementia, I don't know exactly. But he was happy to tell me, her son, that she has found someone down there, mm-hmm. and that they're together all the time. And he was happy about that.
Oh, absolutely. And you'll see that with the spouses sometimes when they come into the community after our residents lived with us for a while. It's a companionship. You know, they can hold hands, and, you know, sometimes the spouse is okay with it, saying, I lost my husband a couple years ago. That's not my husband. I'm happy he was able to find somebody else.
Yeah, that is very good. I'm sure some people have a hard time with that, but that's the right thing to be. Because you're right. They really aren't the person that they knew, even though they're there in the face, the body. And I guess it must be very hard when they come to visit and they're not recognized.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
How does that go?
It's hard. It's especially for the children, because they'll come into the community visiting their mother or father, and all of a sudden they're no longer the child. They're this is my mother, or this is my sister, not this is my daughter. So At first, it's very shocking for them, but they get used to it.
And it's really your community. Artis is a very important name for everybody to remember. It's located here in Boca Raton. It's really quite beautiful. It's where they say empowerment, pride, and fulfillment define memory care. And that's a very good point, that usually when someone loses their brains or they lose their cognitive ability, it's so negatively spoken. In fact, a lot of the family members won't even say it. Oh, well, something, right? Because it's like an embarrassment, or it's right, isn't it? Mm-hmm. But it's really not. They're just in another place, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, some people still consider it a mental illness, and it's not. It's an everything illness. It affects not only your mind, but it affects your eyes, your sense of smell, all your senses, your muscles. Everything that your brain works is affected by this disease.
Because your brain is broken.
Yeah,
it does not work right.
It's not like they had a mental illness. It's, there's the heart is still there. Mm-hmm. They cannot, the residents cannot express themselves like they used to.
And is it, though, true that there are people who never forget the loved one, even though they don't remember a lot of things, for some reason, and I wonder what that is?
They don't remember they don't remember events, but they do remember aspects, things that made them feel good. So it could be that reason. They remember the face, and they remember that there was something very special about them, and they loved them for some reason. Maybe not it was their husband or their wife, but this was a very special person to them in their lives.
Now, if someone has Alzheimer's, are they able to feed themselves? Tell us what a day in the life of someone is like, SHERYL.
In our community, it does, because you can have somebody that has the early stages that are very kind of as independent as one could be, and for our community, it's we want them to be able to gracefully age in place. We want to be able to take care of them, through the whole process. So we do have some that are very independent, and we have others that can no longer feed themselves, or maybe need a little bit more assistance than their neighbor. But it's nice because you see, we're one big family, and the residents become families as well. And one may help the other or their neighbor, and, look out for them, or make sure they get them to an activity, or, they watch out for each other.
So let me ask both of you. I know you've had experience in healthcare, but can you go all the way back when you hadn't really known anyone who had this disease, and how it was for you when you first saw it and got into it?
It made me sad. I was a mother, so I already was compassionate and caring as it was. So I didn't know much about it because I didn't have to deal with it. It's not in my family. I didn't know anybody with it, so I was new to it. But it's very sad to think that this person was, this, father, and, did all these amazing things. And then now, he's here. It's sad.
Mm-hmm. How about you, Dave?
The same thing. I was just very sad to see what this disease can do to someone's brain. That, one day, there was a gentleman that we spoke with his wife a few months ago, and he had just retired last, I think it was June or July. And as soon as he retired, it came out of the closet that he was suffering with this illness. He was functioning. He was driving himself back and forth to work. And he was hiding it from his wife for all this time, for quite a few years. Mm-hmm. And then there's some people that we speak with that they told us that New Year's Eve, mother was okay. She was out celebrating New Year's. Everything was fine. And all of a sudden one day they were talking, and something clicked that she was no longer fine.
Mm-hmm. Is that right? Isn't that unusual?
It's I think what it is like with the husband and wife situation, we want to believe that it's they forget, they had a bad day.
Right,
or
right.
You can play it off and you never associate the two together, especially somebody that just retired and you just bought a house and this is your plans. And, so you don't look at that as an option, which, it's in front of us. So, I think about it all the time.
Well, we're doing this radio show that a lot of our listeners don't have to get into it yet. They can just feel it through you both. Mm-hmm. And they know what to expect if it happens. It doesn't have to happen. Not everybody's going to get Alzheimer's.
Oh, no. And just because you forget something doesn't mean you have it.
Of course. And I want to just tell everybody you're listening to SHERYL Taylor. She's Director of Marketing, and David Larsen, Director of the Partnership Development for Artis, Artis Senior Living. And they are located at, it's very, very close. It's 5910 North Federal Highway in Boca Raton. You can call them if you'd like a tour. You'd probably like to meet them, just to meet them anyway, but it's good to know everything you can. So it's 561-989-9945. And it's, as I said, very easily located, just a little bit north of Yamato. I guess that's a good way to put it, and not quite into Delray, but it's really beautifully done, and it's fairly new, right? How long have you been there?
We opened the end of May.
End of May. Mm-hmm. Wow. Yeah, it's now artists, they do something that's very unusual with memory care, and we talked about this before. There are a lot of communities that had add-ons for memory care. Mm-hmm. Assisted living, and they put people in just a different location, lock the doors, and they weren't prepared for it. But you, which I admire so much, this is made for people who need memory care attention.
Mm-hmm. That's correct, and it was built from the ground up with that in mind. It does not look like a facility or a hospital. It looks like you're in a spa. It looks like you're in a hotel. We've made sure we've gone to the extremes of our staff. They don't walk around with scrubs and a stethoscope on. Everybody has a uniform, but it doesn't look like a hospital uniform. Our med carts look like pieces of furniture. There's nothing that would remind you of a hospital or like a facility setting. Mm-hmm. Ours is more of a community. It has neighborhoods, not wings. It's designed for the person who is suffering with this illness.
I remember driving by when it was under construction, and I thought it was going to be a motel or a hotel. Mm-hmm. I really did, because it was so beautifully put together.
We have a lot of people coming in.
Right. They say,
that want to see it.
They want to know, huh? Mm-hmm. If, can I reserve it for tomorrow night? Mm-hmm. I'll tell you something else. When I first learned a lot more about Alzheimer's, there was a very fancy couple lived in Palm Beach, and the man was very involved in PR. He represented a lot of people, and he just loved his wife. You could see that. Mm. Then when she got dementia, she got Alzheimer's, and I know there's a difference, but I'm going to use the word Alzheimer's. He found that he could sit her in a chair and put on old music, all the big band music, and she would stay all day long and be happy. Now, do you find that true?
Music is everything. I mean, anybody wakes up to music. I mean, it brings you back alive. David, I think you should be talking about the music since you love to sing.
That's one of the last sentences to go with our residents. Our residents remember, I had one resident yesterday, I think she may be in her mid to late 80s, and we had some Beatles music playing, and she knew every word to the Beatles songs, and I was amazed. I kept listening. I thought, is that her singing? And sure enough, I looked out of my office, and there she was singing every word to the Beatles music. So it's not even the age-appropriate music like Frank Sinatra and everything. It seems like the majority of our residents, just when they listen to music, they remembered good music. So
yeah, I've heard that from even our community, but I worked with a family this morning, and the referral agency had mentioned that they were at where her father was in another state. One of the residents never spoke, didn't eat. She had to be fed. But when it was music time, she came alive. She sang. She knew the words. It was the only time she spoke was when music was on.
Huh. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great. Let me tell you something else, and I want your opinion on this. Years ago, because I've been doing this a long time, there was an organization. It was a place where people stayed, but they were doing research while they were taking care of people. I think it was maybe the Miami Jewish Home for the Aged. I'm not really sure, but they're working on it. And one thing, when you went in there, they had a whole wall of locks, keys, locks, all different kinds. And the residents kept wanting to turn the keys. And they told me it's because they keep wanting to get out. They want to get back to where they were. Do you have anything like this? You ever heard of that?
No.
There's a whole wall of different kinds of locks with keys. And they would go up and they'd be opening and closing them.
I've never seen anything like that.
Right? It was a research that they were doing.
Well, but I can see that because a lot of times, they want their, independence. They do want to go. They want to, if they see a door, they want to go. And when they're at home, you can't. You're not safe. You have to stay in. You have to watch. So then you're taking away their independence. So they'll get upset. But in our community, we have so many different doors and so many places that they can just go out and come in and be very secure and safe, but yet still feel very independent.
We have a resident whose wife thought that maybe it wasn't the right decision because she had family members saying that she's just put her husband in this place and shame on her. So she felt so guilty. She said, I'm just going to bring him home and see what happens. Mm-hmm. So she says, I'm going to bring him home for a week and see how it works between the two of us. She brought him home. By the time it was time to go to bed, he said, please bring me back. He said, I want to go back.
I want to go back home.
And she said, please, she says, it's too late now. We've got to stay. She said he had a horrible sleep. He could not wait to get back.
Mm-hmm. Now, that's really something, isn't it? That's beautiful.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Because I remember working with her, and, she would put her couch in her front door so he wouldn't leave. And then he never slept through the night, so then, therefore, she never got sleep. And it was just a vicious cycle. Mm-hmm.
That's why they call it the 36-hour day. 36-hour day is a book on that. If you haven't read it, I started when, as a gerontologist, I started learning and reading about everything, and I thought, what is a 36-hour day? But I can understand it. Mm-hmm. Now, they never stop. When do you go to sleep? Maybe you try to sleep during the day, but they're up at night. Mm-hmm. And then you have to make sure if you hire people at home that they really understand this whole period, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
So at Artis, you have people then day and night who are there to help people who are confused about this.
Correct.
Yeah. They all have certain shifts. Everybody gets to go home and have their break. Absolutely. It's so important. That's why they always say that the caregiver, the spouse of taking care of somebody who has this illness, they're the ones that carry the brunt of the stress. Because if the resident's not sleeping or their loved one's not sleeping, they're not sleeping, but yet then they still have to care for everything else in their home. And stress and worry about if they're going to be okay. Are they going to go out the door? Where are they going to go? And it's.
Tell me about your kitchen. Describe the kitchen at Artis.
It's a Mediterranean kitchen, so everything is fresh. I've never seen our chef open up a can. Everything comes from the produce. Everything is fresh. Our meats, our poultry is purchased for the time. It's not purchased ahead of time and frozen. So the food is really, it's done very nicely. It's a different type of a cuisine, so it's not the typical barbecue chicken with the side of mashed potatoes and whatever. There's always some different type of. She just does a really great job of putting together a menu.
And they can
really
pick up the food with their hands if they want, right? Because that's...
We have a selection. See? We have a selection for our residents. They're offered. We go to the table. They're served family style. It's not pre-plated, so we come to the tables with the food on platters and in bowls, and we show our resident we show them the examples, and they choose, ability to have a voice. Yeah. That's what A stands for. So in Artis. So they are able to choose what they want and how much of it they want or how little of it they want.
Because, not to interrupt, David, but the one thing that, we really do that's so important is when you're dealing with somebody that has dementia, and if you go to them and say, do you want fish or chicken, they may not know the difference. So one thing that I think is so unique about our community is we do a plated option. They do a show plate. So each entree is on a show plate. So that way the resident can look at them, smell them, see them with their eyes, and see which one that
That's
they want.
what you meant by a show plate.
Yeah. So
That's
it's so
very
important.
unusual. It takes a lot of extra effort to do that.
But
It only takes a few minutes to make the resident really. It's the dining experience to everyone is very important. What do we have? We have our food. We have our entertainment. That's what we look forward to. When we're having lunch, what are we thinking about? What we're going to have for dinner, correct?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So this is what our residents are thinking about also. So the dining experience is very important. It's not a rushed affair. Our residents sit and enjoy their meal. The plates aren't cleaned until they're finished. They have desserts offered to them. Nothing is just thrown on the table. It's a restaurant is what it is. And each neighborhood has their own dining room. And each neighborhood has their own kitchen. So it's not a large, I don't know what you call it. A cafeteria,
style,
thank you.
right.
It's not cafeteria style. It's like being in your own home, in your own dining room.
And they're eating off china. They have cloth napkins, and the table is set. So it's not just, they only get a fork or they only get a spoon. And no, they get it all.
And would you tell us a little bit about the owners or the people, the corporation, whoever, least, it's important that people understand this is unique. And is this something that is, do they have other places across the country?
They do. Artis is...
and before you forget, why don't you tell what Artis, because you mentioned that. Tell us what Artis means. I thought that's great.
Artist, it means the ability to have a voice. And what that means is our residents, this is their home, and they have the ability to have a voice. We have, and actually it's this afternoon, they have something called Time to Dish, where they're going to talk about the meals and things that they want to see more of.
Really?
Yes. And then there's town council. They have
It's the town hall meeting.
Yeah, they have a meeting in that way in regards to activities and just the community in general, if they want to bring anything up. And the families have the families also have a voice. We have family chats once a month with our department heads. All the management team comes together with the families, and we discuss how we can make it better and what we can do, and vice versa. It's open dialogue back and forth. R means respecting and maintaining relationships, and that goes again with the residents. We try to do everything we can to maintain their relationship with their spouse or their loved one or their children. A great example is we had Valentine's Day. We had a couple residents that were in the hospital, and they happened to be the husbands, and we know they would have, if they could think about it and do it, they would have gotten their wives flowers. So we ran out to the hospitals and had gotten a couple bouquet of flowers. We got cards, helped them sign the cards, so when their wife came to see them, they could present them with their roses and their card, because they would do it if they could. So that's what we're here for. T is treasuring each person's uniqueness. Everybody's individual, and they're all different in their own way. I is integrity. And S is success and recognition.
So when they named it, that really was what they decided to do, isn't it? That's beautiful.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's all about a partnership too. Their partnership, the positive partnership, the Artis way. We partner with the resident, and we partner with the family. We're not only there to take care of our biggest and first and foremost concern is the resident, but at the same time we're here for the family too.
Well, the reason that I mentioned about who the owners are is because why would they know? Who are they that they could know and care about this? I thought maybe they're gerontologists or maybe they're something.
They had personal. The owner of the company had personal experience with this disease. So they had some other communities that they had built in the past, and they sold those. And they decided that what they wanted to do is just focus on the person now. Just focus on the person and not the disease.
Right.
Because it's so easy just to focus on a disease, but it was time to just focus on the human being.
Mm-hmm.
So they decided to build these communities where we are focusing on the human being.
So that's a very good explanation, because it's obvious that that's what's happening. So when people come in, as you said, the wife wanted him to come home because everybody was saying you did the wrong thing. Do you have, once someone comes there, do you have a lot of people who decide they don't like it and they want to go home? I guess there's always somebody, huh? But
I've had it. We had another family member, spouse. She had moved her husband in. She did it just for respite, so she can have a break.
Okay, now you do that.
Yeah, for a minimum
That's
is a
really
week,
important.
and the maximum is a month. But
okay.
She moved him in, and then she would extend it another week, and then the time was up, and she needed to take him home. And she was amazed at how well he was doing. So in her mind, she's thinking, "Okay, I can do this." And unfortunately, she took him home, and she brought him back 2 weeks later, and it's like, I don't know what you do, but you guys have it. I can't take care of him like you do.
Well, we'll catch you later. We'll catch you another time. Every time you come, there's new things that I learn. And just remember, I'm certainly very pleased with what you do. I love the fact that you take care of that individual. And that's you say things that I never hear from other places. So I am so thrilled to talk with you. So let me just tell everybody, the website's artisseniorliving.com. ARTIS. Phone number is 561-989-9945. And I really appreciate you both being here.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, it's always my pleasure.
It's a pleasure being here.